All right, welcome back everyone online and everybody here in the room for the second part of our afternoon for the Stéfan Sinclair-CRIHN lecture, second annual CRIHN lecture at McGill here today. It's my great pleasure to introduce Jason Camlot from Concordia University, who's another founding member of the center back in 2013, who will be presenting the 4 graduate students in that roundtable back to back, and then each of them will do their presentation. That will be about 12-15 minutes each, followed by question time. So. Okay, great.
Merci, Michael. Bonjour tout le monde. It's really great to be here. I'm going to introduce each presenter in order, one after the other right now, and then they'll be presenting in the order that I introduced them. Our first presenter will be, now without the light, it's a little harder to read. Yeah. We'll lower the lights as soon as I'm done. Arun Jacob is a doctoral candidate at the Faculty of Information. Since I don't even know all of the presenters, maybe when I call out your name, if you could just raise your hand so people know who I'm talking about. So Arun is a doctoral candidate at the Faculty of Information, University of Toronto. Arun's work unites media genealogy, intersectional feminist media studies, and critical university studies to explore how contemporary university data management techniques and information management systems shape our sociological relations, experiences, and knowledge. Arun's publications have appeared in interdisciplinary digital engagement in the arts and humanities, digital studies, Le Champ Numérique, and the College Quarterly and alternative historiographies of the digital humanities. So Arun will present first, followed by Lisa Teichmann. Elle est doctorante au département des langues, des littératures et des cultures de l'Université McGill et assiste de recherche au laboratoire pour les récits collectifs et analyse de discours, l'ADIREC. Elle est titulaire d'une maîtrise en études moyennes orientales de l'Université de Leiden et d'une licence en études orientales de l'Université de Vienne. Son projet de thèse consiste à cartographier les données bibliographiques de fiction allemande traduites extraites de la Bibliothèque nationale allemande et à étudier comment les traductions forment des canaux et des réseaux entre des communautés littéraires. After Lisa, we'll hear from Parham Aledavood. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. Who's a PhD student in literature with a specialization in digital humanities at Université de Montréal and a published literary translator. He graduated summa cum laude with an MA in English from the Free University of Brussels last year. His master's thesis on generational memories in Black British fiction was awarded the VUB Multilingual Master Award for Literary Studies and the Herman Selvoet Prize. His research interests include diaspora, memory, trauma, computational narrative studies, and post-colonial digital humanities. And our last presenter will be Klara Du Plessis, who is a FRQSC-funded final year PhD candidate at Concordia University, affiliated with the Spoken Web Research Network, which is the network that I direct. I'll say a word about that right at the end. She is the 2-time recipient of the English Department's Win Francis Award. I think we just found out yesterday about the 2nd time, so congratulations, Clara, for an essay on Canadian poetry. Her research is forthcoming in the monograph Future Horizons, Canadian Digital Humanities, and a special issue of English Studies in Canada on literature and sound. Clara is also a poet, and in that capacity, she won the 2019 Pat Lowther Memorial Award for her debut collection, Eke. While Hell Light Flesh, her 2nd book, is currently being adopted and will be produced as a mono opera film with composer Jimmy Lebon. In fall 2023, Clara will release L'Impossible Collab. It's hard to show because there's no I, there's an I missing there, purposely. A book of literary essays, and G, a co-written poetry collection with Kashayar Momadi. And finally, I'll just say I'm the director of the research network called Spoken Web, which works on it's basically collections of sound recordings that have been made since the 1950s that document literary activities and events in Canada. And we've been digitizing, describing with a metadata schema that we developed, and have been working on sharing and researching these materials for the last 4 years, and will continue to do so. So it's my great pleasure to introduce all of these presenters today, and we're going to begin with Arun. Yeah.
the room goes dark, it's very moody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share that. I'll go here and it will start the slideshow.
Perfect. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So glad to see everybody here. Thank you for being here. First off, I want to start with a shout out to, and the shout out goes to Adeline Coe and Dorothy King, who are the editors of Alternative Historiographies of Digital Humanities. They won the BH Caucus Book of the Year Award last month at the American Studies Association. And I want to start there because in that was my first BH publication on, it was called, Punching Holes in the International Abuse of Machine Narrative. That was the chapter that I wrote for it. And the stuff that I'm going to talk about today is kind of mise en place. So it's not yet ready. It's in its form, but it's in the Busa cinematic universe. It's my sequel. So that's how I would present it. And so that's where I wanted to start off with. And why sequel? Because this is how I usually start my stuff. Here you have Susan Schreiber and Siemens and Unsworth's book. So Busa writes the foreword for that book. And in that book, he says that I connected the Anglo-Russian project of Leon Dostert and Peter Tama at the Georgetown University with the Computer Training Center at Lombardy, where he was working at. This is where work here starts. What is going on? What is this about? What is the context? To historicize it, to politicize it, to know the cultural location where things were happening. That's where the project this time is going. So there's Busa, there's Dostert. This is at Georgetown University. The project is the Georgetown IBM experiment. It's where they're able to take Russian journals and use an IBM 701 mainframe in order to turn that from Russian to English. The tech bros of the time said it was the greatest thing since sliced bread for machine translation. Like every tech bro, it wasn't all that great, but they sold it as such. Now, why is all of this important? Well, one, it's because Russia had USSR had just sent Sputnik into space. And it was necessary for the American academic establishment to be able to find the science, the technology, the engineering scholars to be able to reciprocate and do something similar. President Eisenhower had just come out with the National Defense Education Act, which was funding from the DoD available for all of those kinds of projects. But Leon Dostert over there was his French translator during the war. And he was the director of the Georgetown University Language and Linguistics program. And he was able to get funding for his language program because he said, linguistics is a patriotic science where foreign languages and area studies will be able to contribute to what the national project is. And being a very media determined aspect of it, you could get technology to be able to do this. In this case, machines can be used to do the translation. And so that technological determinism is evident in how he is operating. You get to see that there. You also find out that Dostert was buddies with Alan Dulles, who was the director of the CIA, and they were able to get CIA funding for the project at Georgetown University in order to get most of the project off the ground. Also, did I mention that he was the guy in charge of the simultaneous translation that happened during the Nuremberg trials? And that was done using an IBM 701 mainframe. And that's where he met Thomas Watson. So in one person, Leon Dostert, you have a discourse network where he is Eisenhower's translator. He is friends with the CIA director. He's friends with the CEO of IBM. I thought this guy was interesting. He goes to a conference in Romania and dies of a heart attack and does not get to complete the magnum opus that he is. But his partner, Božena Dostert, does write the book on machine translation. Hagiography tells us about how great a scholar Dostert was, the machine translation work he did, and all of that fun stuff. Božena Heinz Dostert. Let me tell you something about her. She was his PhD student before she was his wife. 30 years difference between the two. Oh, right. Yeah, 30 years between the two of them. And after he passed away, she marries Fred Thompson, Caltech University linguistics professor. And before she was married to Dostert, she was married to Roman Retman. Professor Retman was the founder of the linguistics program at the University of Guelph in Ontario. From 1966 to 1986, he worked there as a linguistics professor. So she was married to Roman Retman, Leon Dostert, and Fred Thompson. All three of these scholars were tenured linguistics professors in their institutions. She was never tenured. She co-authored with all of them. She was very instrumental in most of the machine translation work, but yet there was very little I could find about her. So she became very interesting to me, more so than Dostert himself. And I couldn't find a lot of information about her, so I went to the McMaster University archivist, Myron Grover, and Myron said, I don't want to tell you this, but public libraries have a subscription to ancestry.com. So you want to go to a public library in order to be able to access the records from the Social Security immigration records of that. Here, this is how I got access to that. Božena Hennisch Retman, married to Leon Dostert, formerly Božena Hennisch Retman over there. Found this information, so I was able to find out her birthday, when she passed away, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, cold. Then I started looking at newspaper archives to find out, okay, is there anything I can find out about her? This is the paper from May 10th, 1961, New York Times. This is the part that I want you all to pay attention to. President Kennedy is having an event for international students at the White House. And at that event, we get to see a Polish student presented them with a Polish phrase book. The president reminded the student, Madam Božena Retman. What? She got to see JFK? And she gave JFK this book? So I had to go on Abe Books and get a copy of this book just because I wanted to know what it's about. It so happens with other things we found out that the MLA was curating a list of the foreign language books that they would be able, they use as, these are the sanctioned lists for all foreign language students and foreign, in order to be able to study from, and they would be the ones that would buy them in bulk, distribute them, funding available from DoD. There's that. This is from the JFK virtual library. You get to see this is May 1961. Božena is there. She's the only one in that thing, as according to the New York Times article. 1963, May, once again, there's an event for foreign students. This time, it's Mr. and Mrs. Retman. So her boyfriend from Poland, who's Professor Roman Retman, was in attendance at the 63 event as well. This is 198 days before November 11th, 1963. So with those two names in place, now I went back to ancestry.com to look for Roman Retman. And there I found the HMS Queen Mary's record of the aliens who were on board that plane, that ship. So here we have Roman Retman, and underneath there's another Retman. The name is mispronounced. It says Hennisch, but it's like with an H, and her first name's not there. So if I were a betting man, I would think that's Božena, but I don't know. But underneath the word there is Institute of International Education. Okay, so I have Retman, International Education. I use those two terms to look up what else comes next. In the process, I come across this PhD thesis from 2018, which is about the Ford Foundation and how the Ford Foundation was instrumental in getting Eastern European scholars into America. And there, the author writes about Polish fellow Bożena. So I'm guessing this is a typo. I've emailed the author and I'm waiting to hear back. But in that mentions it Redmond to Stone. There's correspondence, which is at the Dartmouth College archives. It's for the Ford Foundation, and this is his correspondence. So I've contacted them as well, waiting to find out if this letter is available. Stone happens to be, Shepherd Stone is the director of the Ford Foundation. So she was in correspondence with yet another powerful man. Yet I can't find out any more information about her. This is like public, again, newspaper records about the kind of machine translation work that Bożena was doing. The last newspaper article that I see about her is from 1981. So she is still producing academic articles till the 1990s. After that, the trail goes cold. 2002 is when she's passed away. I'm trying to find out any more information about Bożena in the process, but haven't been able to do so far. But my intention over here is to point at the archival silences, the omissions, the gaps, and get a handle of what the political climate of the time is and what Cold War media theory informs us of is there are certain kinds of scholars who got prime time and certain people who didn't. And the reasons for that is something that we have to go back and look at. That's where I'm at. Thank you.